Welcome to an Osteoarthritis Action Alliance presentation featuring Steve O'Keefe, founder of Angry Arthritis. Steve is an OA cure hunter and founder of Angry Arthritis, a new nonprofit focused on attacking and eliminating arthritis. He really is angry at arthritis because, like you, he has it. Arthritis, that is. Angry Arthritis is 100% focused on providing a patient's guide to OA and on providing patients with direct access to the leading science. Steve hosts a podcast with the world's leading OA research and clinical experts, and today he's going to talk with us about the new OA Fix, Trials in the Mix, OA Cure Roadmap, and Clinical Trial Locator. Steve, thanks for joining us. Tell us about you, the OA Fix, and more broadly about Angry Arthritis.
Katie, thank you for having me on today. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always great to interact with the OA Action Alliance. You folks down at Chapel Hill really do an excellent job. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. As you kindly introduced me, my name is Steve O'Keefe. I'm the founder of Angry Arthritis. A little about me. I'm 56 years old. I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis 2 years ago, which honestly was a complete shock to me. I'm 6 feet tall, I weigh about 180 pounds. I've worked out my whole life, and arthritis simply couldn't happen to me. I eat well. I maintain a healthy balance in life, and it just couldn't happen to me. And all of a sudden it did. So I finished biology at 15 when I was at school. And never thought I would come back to it. And 2 years ago, when I got my osteoarthritis diagnosis, I hit the books pretty hard. I started Googling and reading research and writing emails and calling people. And I'm afraid that the attitude of the healthcare industry towards people with osteoarthritis, well, it's benign neglect. The response is, well, sit over there, you're getting older, you're not going to do the things that you've always enjoyed doing, but they're there. And I think one of the biggest challenges with osteoarthritis is that it's not more lethal. And when I say that it's not more lethal, of course, it's somewhat flip. But the truth of the matter is that osteoarthritis is lethal because people stop moving, they gain weight, they end up with a whole series of comorbidities, including heart disease and diabetes. And if it were more lethal, then I think they would have solved it. So what I wanted to do was to find a cure. And so as I mentioned, I started Googling, I started reading papers, and that's not something that everybody has the time or luxury to do. I also wrote a lot of checks. I'm retired to various research institutions in order to be able to have access to the leading experts. And I also flew all over the world meeting with them. And so what I wanted to do by starting Angry Arthritis was create a patient's guide to osteoarthritis, and importantly, to provide a way for regular folks to navigate their way through the available treatments, and importantly, to be able to find clinical trials that might potentially offer them some relief. And osteoarthritis is not a one-way road. There are a whole series of experts working on cures for osteoarthritis right now. And funnily enough, the week after we launched Angry Arthritis in May of this year, ARPA-H, which is the Advanced Research Project Agency for Health, a federal agency, announced a program called NITRO. NITRO, and you can Google it, is a moonshot to cure osteoarthritis. So what a fabulous opportunity to have done all this research, to be able to help provide it to regular patients. Funnily enough, to bring the osteoarthritis cure ecosystem together. I've made a lot of introductions for leading researchers and clinicians who did not know one another. And all that happening while Uncle Sam is launching the NITRO program. Now, it's unclear what the budget is for NITRO, and we're trying to get that out of them, but rumor has it it's about $1 billion. So there are more than 32 million American adults with osteoarthritis. What a great opportunity for the federal government to do something to change the trajectory of the disease and improve life for so many Americans. According to the federal government, there are 2.5 million joint replacements every year in America, and that number is growing. And as we know, those joint replacements are not something you want. They are extremely limiting. Your ability to run and jump after having a joint replacement it's not a good idea. And typically those knee replacements will wear out after about 10 years. And then, as Al Roker will tell you, replacing a replacement certainly is not for the faint of heart. So we're focused on this idea of finding a cure for osteoarthritis. I'm not talking about the typical mantra of exercise more or lose weight or change your diet, because like me, there are many, many people who are already doing all those things. I'm talking about a cure for osteoarthritis. And so the OA Fix trials in the mix, as you can see on my screen, I'll talk about this, is a guide for regular patients to understand what cures are in development so they can make a high-value decision about whether they need to get an artificial joint, what potential solutions are on the horizon. So what I wanted was a simple guide. If you go to clinicaltrials.gov, which I'm sure many people have done, and I certainly went to clinicaltrials.gov, it is impossible to navigate. There are literally hundreds of clinical trials going on in all aspects of arthritis. So you've got your rheumatoid arthritis, you get your osteoarthritis, you've got psoriatic arthritis, and you've got trials where researchers are looking at the impact of hyaluronic acid injections on the longevity of artificial joints. Well, that's not what I want. You've got trials going on about hand osteoarthritis and elbow osteoarthritis and what you will. What I wanted was the ability to navigate to the osteoarthritis clinical trials and to be able to make sense of how they work, where they operate, where they are in the clinical trial process. So let me kind of walk you through that. At the top here, we have a legend or a key. And so K works in the knee, H is the hip, S is the shoulder, A is the ankle, and E is the elbow. And it says whether the treatment is a surgery or an injection. And then the red squares tell us where people are actively recruiting. The clinical trials are actively recruiting. So I can tell which are open. We also have a series of podcasts, and we'll have more with these experts. So you can check out the podcast and learn about the treatment, see how it works, learn more about the activity. So we have active trials. And so as I scroll down, it's really quite simple. As you move from the left to the right, you've got treatments that are further forward in the approval process. So for example, if you look at the aqueous joint from Liposphere, it works in the knee, and they are actively recruiting for clinical trials. Sparta Biomedical, they're working in the knee, as you can see, and they have a podcast, but they're not yet actively recruiting for clinical trials. So the difference between the yellow and the blue, the Liposphere treatment is an injection, whereas the Sparta Bio is a surgery. And so you can review here, you see the Stanford University, the Microfracture 2.0, that is focused in the knee. So these are in pre-clinical trial med device trials. Only Liposphere has a clinical trial that is open. As we move to phase 2, we see the Novartis trials. And so Novartis is the largest, what they call big pharma provider. It's the only large pharmaceutical company left in the in the osteoarthritis business at this stage. And Novartis's big drug is actually LNA043, which is here in the 2B stage, but you can see that Novartis has 3 drugs, all of which are injectables, all of which are focused in the knee. I'm going to move to phase 2B here, and I'm going to talk about what's happening at the University of Basel in Switzerland. What you see is that this is actually our innovation and clinical leader based on our analysis. So NTEC, which is the Basel procedure, it is a surgery. It works in knees, shoulders, ankles, and elbows. The clinical trials are open, but you have to go to Basel, Switzerland for them. And there is a podcast. Below that, you see Cytex Ortho. Both of these two are surgeries, by the way. And Cytex Ortho is focused in the hip. It is a surgery, and it is currently recruiting for clinical trials. I already talked about Novartis LNA043, which is a knee injection, and it is currently recruiting for clinical trials. As we look at the phase 3 products, you see there are a series of these here, starting with BioSplice, which is recruiting for loricivivant. Again, there are a series of these products. You'll see all of them are focused in the knee. All of them are injections. 3 of them are currently recruiting for clinical trials. None of them are approved at this stage. One of the things that we're looking to do is to provide that information to the NITRO program. As I come down through the chart, you'll see here we talk about a series of other procedures: MACI, Spherox, CartiHeal, and Hyalofast. So as you Google around, you're going to find these treatments, and you're going to scratch your head and you're going to say, okay, well, would these work for me? And the answer is, today, these treatments only address focal lesions, small holes in cartilage versus full osteoarthritis. So the beauty of the OA Fix chart is it is a clinical trial locator, which is accessible to regular folk. So you don't have to do all Googling. You don't have to read all those research reports or to fly all over the world to meet with these experts. And what we wanted to do with this new resource is provide a roadmap, a clinical trial locator for regular Americans to understand what's available. And when I mention regular Americans, one thing I would also add is that we do call out which treatments are available in the US and which treatments are only available overseas. The Liposphere and the Basel trials are both overseas. So that's the OA Fix clinical trials in the mix. I hope you find it useful, and it's a chart that can be updated over time as products move through the clinical trial process. One thing we did notice is that one of the companies canceled its clinical trial while we were building this. So as existing treatments move forward or fall out, and also new treatments come in, we're trying to provide that roadmap for regular OA patients who are trying to make sense of what their options might be.
Steve, thank you for that presentation. If you don't mind, I'll ask a question.
No,
First, when we post this, is there a link that we can include where people can access this chart? Because you did say it's interactive, right? So my question was, how do patients literally locate these studies? How do they find out about eligibility or study details, how they can enroll? Would that be information that they can access directly from your chart?
Yes, you'll be able to click right through the, good question, Katie, thank you. So you can click right through those treatments that are in clinical trial have a red square by them, and you can click right through to learn more about the treatment and also to sign up for those clinical trials.
That's great. So the URL is listed here, but we'll also include it with the posting.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, please access the chart. If you have any feedback on the chart, please come back to us. We do have a series of podcasts with these leading experts on the site. It's all free. Anybody can access our resources, and we are collecting donations to help fund these clinical trials for these organizations as well. So by all means, check out the podcast, check out the chart, and we are working with these leading developers and with the federal government to try to move the ball forward in terms of curing this terrible disease.
That's great. Thank you so much. You really broke that down for us. And I know that other patients will appreciate this information and having it all in one place.
Yes, thank you very much, Katie. And I would also like to give a big shout out to the OA Action Alliance. It's always great to be in your company, and thank you for everything that you do for this community. You're an invaluable resource.